Hey, I'm Alex.
And I'm Harley.
This is Should You Need Us, your cosmic invitation to the absurd, the obscure, and the astonishingly weird.
Let the oddities begin.
A candle warmer?
Nice.
I saw somebody online using their candle warmer to put a crunch wrap on.
Genius.
So, pro-life hack. Use your candle warmer for your leftover Taco Bell.
Oh my god. Now I need a candle warmer.
So, yeah, I was hanging out with my parents yesterday, and they told me such a funny story that I have to share with you. My mom was so excited because she was listening to our Thanksgiving podcast, and she brings up some family lore and that I did not know, first of all. So, side note, I got my grandpa's book over here. It's like his life memoir.
Oh.
Yeah, that he wrote. So, I have that now, which is pretty cool to have. Pretty grateful for that.
You could do a podcast on that.
There's a lot, yeah. He was a prisoner of war, so there's like a lot of that in there. Damn. It's pretty intense. So, yeah, maybe I'll do an episode on that. We'll see. But my mom literally says, "Hey, did you know like your dad's named after Calvin Coolidge, the president?"
What?
Yeah, I didn't know this.
Did they know? Did your family know him?
Yes. No. Hold on. No, I responded to that question before I heard. Wow, ADHD. No, they did not know him. But my grandparents like America. I don't know. 31 years on this planet. I did not know this. And then Damon was like, "What the hell?" We were so confused. My dad's like, "Yeah, I'm named after Calvin Coolidge, whatever." And my mom says, "Did you guys know that the actual first pardoned animal at the White House was a raccoon that Calvin Coolidge was supposed to eat?"
Oh.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
For a holiday or just for fun?
This was for, I believe, a Thanksgiving dinner. Yes.
A raccoon?
Yes. So Rebecca the raccoon was to be served at the White House in 1926 for their Thanksgiving dinner. They were eating raccoons in the White House before the 30s.
Yeah, that's the start of the Great Depression. And Prohibition was going on, so people weren't drinking. So they weren't in the right minds.
They weren't drinking, so they weren't in their right minds. No, yeah, they were straight up just casually eating raccoons.
Sober eating raccoons.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm glad that raccoon got pardoned.
So in 1913, Horace Vose died, and he was the traditional provider of the turkey. So for a second, they didn't have their turkeys. So like multiple farmers out in the States would send in animals for the president to eat. This is crazy. So he had never eaten a raccoon and apparently had no appetite to try it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, what in the actual fuck? Like, were they eating them? Why have I never heard of this? I'm glad that this isn't like custom because I'd be really concerned.
Yeah. Well, and you heard that raccoons are on their way to being domesticated.
I'm not
within like the next 10 years. They're going to be domesticated.
They're just going to be pets.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised, dude. They are like basically cats. But stronger. Yeah.
More feisty.
But feistier. So in 1926, Rebecca gets sent to the White House and he says no. Coolidge says, "I don't want to eat this raccoon." And she becomes a family pet.
Aww.
So they end up keeping her for basically his entire presidency. So from like the next, 3.5 years, they have her. Or 3 years. Yeah, from 1926 to 1929, she lives with the president at the White House. And she's fed shrimp. Persimmons, eggs were her favorite.
Oh.
And Rebecca was apparently let loose in the White House often. And they were always trying to like wrangle her up because she was super mischievous and she would unscrew light bulbs, open cabinets, unpot plants. And she would apparently sit in President Coolidge's lap when he sat by the fireplace.
Oh my God, I need a picture of this.
Here's a picture of the First Lady holding her.
Oh, look at how happy that raccoon looks.
She's living lavish.
That is a wide smile, her teeth showing.
She's a happy girl. But sadly, after Calvin Coolidge finished his presidency, they didn't keep her.
What happened? Oh, do I want to know?
They were kind of overwhelmed by Rebecca, and I'm sure that at one point they had a whole staff helping. So when you don't have that anymore and you have to take care of a raccoon by yourself, things get a little overwhelming. And they sent Rebecca to live at the like Rock Creek Park sanctuary. But sadly, she missed her lavish life at the White House too much, and she passed away shortly after moving to the sanctuary.
She died of a broken heart.
Straight up, that's what my mom said. So
her family abandoned her. This is why don't get an animal if you don't plan on keeping it.
Honestly, think about it, y'all. It's a creature whose entire world is you, and sometimes your entire world isn't the animal, but you have to remember that you're theirs. Oh, this got sad. Yeah, but yeah, she lived a happy life. At one point she had don't cry about the raccoon. We haven't even gotten to the sad part of my story yet.
Oh God.
But she had a boyfriend named Ruben at one point. And she another raccoon? Yeah, another raccoon. Okay. Yeah, they got another raccoon for her when she was living at the White House. And she said, fuck no.
Oh, okay.
And she kicked Ruben out.
She's an independent woman.
Yeah, Ruben ran away. And he was never seen again.
He was like, get me out of this crazy fucking house.
Yeah, but that is a true story that my parents shared with me.
I love that.
And my dad loves raccoons, so.
It's fitting.
It is fitting. Pretty cute story.
Oh my God, I love it. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
I have a little, so I found that video game, The Year Walk.
That's right.
Sorry, last week.
Oh, I should have posted pictures of it.
So I have some pictures. And it is creepy as fuck.
Yeah.
It took me maybe like 20 minutes to play. Really short.
On Switch?
You can get it on the Switch, but I downloaded it on my phone. So originally they made it for iOS, but now it is on Switch. But you're just this character that has to go on a year walk, and you try to get to the graveyard, but you have to find the key. And then the key is hidden within those, like, the Brook horse.
Oh, no.
And they, like, in the Huldra, they all have, like, the key.
Oh, no.
And then you have to, like, do, like, little puzzles.
You're supposed to stay away from the Brook horse.
Well, in the video game, you have to bring him dead babies. Yeah, it's a very dark game.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
And it's not a happy ending either.
Oh no.
Yeah, so.
Can it be a different ending? Like, does it have alternate endings, or is
there's an alternate ending, but that also isn't happy.
Oh, well.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
There's really, even though if you complete the game, there's no winning.
Well, isn't it supposed to be a positive thing in real life? Like, if you complete it, you are rewarded by the future. You get to know the future from the spirits.
Yeah, but remember, one of the things is if you see some disheveled dirt.
Oh yeah, like you're dead.
Yeah.
Great. So it just ends with dirt. Dead. The end.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Sometimes we have to have, I don't know, negative endings in games and movies to fulfill the balance. The balance of life.
No, it's fun. I will say that I had to basically watch a whole entire YouTube video of the breakdown of the game.
How to play it?
Yeah, because...
Oh, God.
So maybe there were a lot of puzzles and I didn't understand the puzzles.
Okay, we'll see.
And I was, when I first downloaded it, I was just staring at, like, the home screen for the longest time because I was waiting for something to happen. And nothing was happening. And I was like, oh, I'm in the game. I should be playing
now. Yes, okay. I think I mentioned to everyone that I've started playing Zelda. And I haven't played it much since because the puzzles are really hard.
Yeah. Thank God for YouTube.
Yeah. Thank God for YouTube.
Because they don't make those. Do you remember, like, they used to make magazines for, like, GameCube games and stuff, and you'd buy the magazine and it would tell you, like, how to play.
The breakdown in it. Yeah.
They don't have those anymore.
I have another sad one, but this one is more local.
Field trip?
Well, actually, we could field trip to the location, but the original club is no longer standing.
Okay.
Because it burned down in a fire on Christmas Eve in 2013.
Oh.
Have you heard of the Wami Massacre?
No, and this was in 2013?
No, this was in 1983.
Oh.
But
No,
the building itself was consumed by fire.
Okay.
And got changed into a hotel. So I'm pretty sure there's a hotel standing in the location of where it is now. But yeah, this happened on February 19th, 1983. And this was a gambling club in Seattle's International District. So over by like King Street Station. And on this evening, 3 armed men entered the club. And their goal was to carry out like a robbery heist, basically. Because this was a gambling club. Mm-hmm. So a lot of local business owners, a lot of like higher ups, like big to-do people in the Chinese community were there gambling like upwards of 10,000 grand. Like they're $20,000 on the table kind of gambling. So these 3 men wanted to steal, and they came in and they left behind 13 dead people.
Oh no.
It's really sad. This is actually, I think, the biggest, like, public massacre in Seattle's history.
Oh, my God.
And it started a whole new chapter for, like, the Pacific Northwest. And the police eventually arrest the 3 men, but one of them flees to Canada. So it takes a little while, but we'll get there. So the Wami Club was located in a ground floor space in a tenant hotel building It was built in like 1909. So beginning in the 20s, it was one of several clubs that operated in the International District, offering like music, dancing, liquor, gambling. But you had to like enter privately. Like there was a doorman.
It was a speakeasy kind of deal.
Kind of, sort of. Like they're definitely like publicly known, like big time. Like these are big clubs. Like SPD's like, we're watching you guys. Like they're like running the show down in the International District. It's up Maynard Alley South. So this is still an alley down in the ID. The Seattle Weekly, they wrote, "You don't speak with any real authority about Seattle in the 30s, 40s, or 50s if you can't say when you stepped into the electric smoky Wami for the first time." So everyone's going there. There is like an entrance down the alley to like the Club Oriental, and I think you go down there because it's a basement club. So it was members only. The doorman knows everyone that comes in. So it's interesting to note that because the people who came in had to have been known by the doorman to get into the club. So that's important. One of the private investigators actually went there for like cocktails and dancing. So one of the people on the case is very familiar with it. It's like just really locally, it's pretty much only local people that go there. So it's like a tight-knit community is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Well, and then if they're having like local, what you said, officials and
like restaurant owners, business owners, people
so
from
they
the
don't,
ID who live and work there.
And they don't necessarily probably want to, because it's bringing money into the community. They're like, oh, we don't want to shut it down completely. But yeah, we're watching you.
Exactly. Like people think probably like, you know, in some ways they might have paid off the police and like they're like allowed to be illegally gambling basically. Anyway, so they earned the reputation of being one of Seattle's best clubs for high stakes gambling and like shady after hours gambling.
Bravo.
Its bank at the end of its evenings would often reach over $50,000, like $100,000. Could just randomly be on the tables or in like the bank at the club at any given time. So people are laying down their entire paychecks. Stakes are high.
Their entire everything.
Life savings, yeah. The security is very, very tight because of this. There are 4 rows of glass brick, like fronted windows at the entrance, but they're kind of opaque. So there's glass at the front, but you can't see through. There's like a peephole. You come up to the door, so it is kind of like speakeasy style. You get let in by the little clicking the buzzer, and they look through the peephole, and you say the magic password or whatever. So they had like a panic alarm button at the door. So the people who came into the club would have been let in and the security wouldn't have hit the panic button in any way. So the way that the murders went down, it's probably that they came in and killed the door person like first so that they wouldn't hit the panic button is what they think happened.
Yeah.
So among the 13 people murdered, the victims was the security at the door. Wai-Yak Chin is the sole survivor. He's shot in the neck, and during the commotion, he is able to hold his neck, crawl on the floor outside. He crawls out a back alley door where the entrance is, and he basically gets outside, the doors slam behind him, and they lock. And then there's a couple people outside who see him, and he is like, help me, there's a shooting inside. So the lone survivor, Wai-Yak Chen, recognizes the first two accomplices, Willie Mack and Benjamin Ang. And they have been to the club before. Willie Mack moved with his family from China to Seattle. He briefly attended the Cleveland High School in Seattle before dropping out. And then he ended up earning his like high school equivalent degree. And he's living with his parents and his siblings in South Seattle. He's working a variety of odd jobs. He's a busboy, a cook, a waiter. He's working his ass off in a steel yard. And then he becomes like a dealer at a couple of Chinatown's after hours gambling clubs. And he ends up incurring some serious debt by 1983. So Willie Mack is 23. He's in debt. He's working at the clubs, and he probably, inside job. He knows a lot of the inner workings. People think he might have been like one of the masterminds of the whole thing. He also was, I think, the shooter, like the main shooter is what they think. Then Benjamin Ang was a high school dropout as well. Like Mac, he worked in a lot of the gambling clubs. He was often spotted cruising around the International District in a blue Corvette, and he had racked up some criminal charges, including robbery, shoplifting, and 2 incidents involving handguns. So Benjamin is 20. He's also kind of involved in some shady comings and goings. And then the third accomplice, Tony Ang, no relationship to Benjamin. He's 25. He's living with his parents as well in South Seattle. So these boys have very similar backgrounds. He had arrived from Hong Kong in like the early 70s, and he also graduated from Cleveland High School. So they all probably hung out in similar crowds and like had friends in common. And he worked part-time at a restaurant in Linwood, at a car dealership in downtown. So he is the one who I believe escaped to Canada after all of this went down. So the first two that are caught are Willie and Benjamin. And on the evening of February 18th, 1983, Mac and Tony met outside the entrance of the Wami Club, and they got buzzed in by security. They loitered around, they hung out for a little bit, they ended up gambling some, and then I guess like one of them went to the bar. They're not sure which, but then after that, they got like, they think like recognized. So they think basically what happened was like they were planning on robbing the place, but didn't realize that when they went inside that there was going to be like every single person in there who knows them directly.
Yeah, and everyone in there probably has a gun too.
Probably. That's probably the case. Like some of these people are, but some of them are just like business owners and like shop merchants.
Yeah, but I feel like if you are in the gambling scene,
true,
when you're dealing with money,
you probably have a gun.
You're
and
packing.
Security has guns for sure.
Or maybe they weren't allowed to bring guns inside.
Maybe they got like checked at the door. Well, that didn't happen because they got guns inside. Yeah, that's for sure. They ended up like, confessing and telling the story and the end of the whole thing. So they did end up saying what happened, but it's pretty dark. I'm not going to get into too much of the details. Like they essentially like say hands up, guns out, rob everyone, money out. And then they hog tie everybody.
Oh.
So even if some of these people did have guns, they somehow were disarmed and unable to defend themselves in any way. So all 13 people, 12 business owners, individuals, they were essentially murdered like X style.
Oh, murdered while hogtied.
Yeah. And then the one survivor, Chin, makes it outside to the alley and gets help. And he is taken to Harborview. So this immediately just becomes like media storm. Like police are there. He is under like armed guard at the hospital. There's ambulances racing to and from Harborview to the club, like loading out victims. Officers say that when they entered, there was a, quote, like sea of blood on the floor. And so they were having to be careful not to slip.
Probably like the worst thing a lot of those people had ever seen too. Like that much blood and that much death. Like
they were pretty shocked. Like it is one of the worst like public massacres that Seattle's ever experienced. So they're loading people out. They're trying to like keep it private, but
that's not happening.
Yeah, like there's a photographer like in the apartment building across the street who like gets photographs of like all the bodies being loaded out in like the sheets. So there's like the media already knows that there's no survivors. They're looking for the perpetrators. They're looking for the fucking people that did it.
The gunmen. They're looking for
the gunmen. They're looking for the gunmen. They're going on a manhunt. So yeah, like Mac and Ang, Willie and Benjamin are arrested within hours. And they're charged with robbery and murder. And Chin, who is the lone survivor, recognizes them on like a lineup. So they're charged pretty much immediately. Their trials began on September 20th, 1983. Mac was found guilty of 13 accounts of aggravated first-degree murder and first-degree assault. There was somehow legal maneuvering that spared Benjamin of the death penalty. So Mac was the ringleader, and he was sentenced to death. Tony Ang, he's at large still while this is happening. So he's at large for 20 months.
Oh, wow.
He escaped up to Calgary, Canada, and he's basically arrested after manhunt, and they're communicating with like the Canadian police. And they find him like hiding out in a neighborhood of like an international district in Calgary, Alberta. He had been living under an alias and working at a factory. His alias was Jim Wong, and he got captured after like an anonymous tip that he was living there. So somebody somehow recognized him, heard about what was going on, and basically turned him in. So he was caught. He is extradited back to Seattle, and his trial begins. He is trying to say that he like was not as much of a participant. Like he didn't know what was happening. Like he wasn't planning it like the other two. And he was just like out in the lobby of the club. Like he claims that he wasn't actually involved in the shooting.
Then why run?
Then why run?
And get an alias?
Get an alias and run away to Canada? So he ends up, he's claiming that he was threatened by the other two, that if he didn't participate, like they were going to kill his family. Like he's making up stories.
Suspicious.
So Tony ends up being found guilty as well of robbery and assault, but not murder, because he weaves his little tale so tightly. So he gets 30 years to life in prison.
Oh, so they were in their 20s in the 80s. So are they still alive? Well,
That's where I'm trying to find what happened to Benjamin and Mac, because I know Tony ended up like getting parole. He served 30 years because he had 30 years to life. So he serves his 30 years and he ends up getting released, but then they deport him to Hong Kong in 2014. So he was a model prisoner, but then they were like, we're going to use the legal system to loophole you out of here.
Tony's full of baloney.
Tony's full of baloney. Wow, that was good, Harley.
Thanks.
Yeah, they're still in prison. The one guy got released. They might have died by now.
Well, the 80s, so what, they would...
They're in their 20s.
They'd be like in their 70s?
No, they might still just be old and in prison. Yeah, I didn't write down anything about what happened to them.
Nothing interesting. They're just rotting away in prison. They're just maybe dead, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe dead, maybe not. Who fucking cares, I guess. I mean, it's sad because it sounds like, they were young men who made a really, 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 really bad decision. But I don't know. Killing 13 people execution style is pretty unforgivable. Like, that's pretty fucked up. The families affected here. Yeah, I wrote a little bit about that, and, like,
I'm sure, it's a small community. Like,
and these were, like, shop owners, business owners, parents, like, loved ones. Like, these were aunts and uncles to not just actual blood family, but, like, to the community.
Yeah.
Like, I wrote a little bit about that, and I wrote about how, like, their kids, like, a lot of them, like, still run, like, the stores and, like, the clubs that their parents owned.
That's so sad.
It's really sad. There was a lot of attention placed on the International District after this. So basically, like, after this happened in the 80s, the Seattle Police Department was like, oh, we're fucking on your ass now. So they really, it caused a lot of, like, discrimination, and it caused a lot of stigma against the Chinese community and the community living in the International District. So a lot of people got, like, kind of more scared of that area. Like, the International District in Seattle has always been full of people living in poverty and, like, you know, insufficient housing, and people living in, there's a lot of crime rate down there, and, like, it's obviously that the city, you know, some of that's by design, and the cops, they're, like, raiding all the clubs in the area now after this, because they're like, okay, well, now we have an excuse to do it.
Yeah.
The cops are raiding, like, the Golden Wheel Club down the street just for years now, like, kind of harassing the community, the Chinese community living in Seattle. So it really was fucked up in more ways than one that this happened. Like, it caused a ripple effect to this day. In 1992, they raided more clubs. 8 people were arrested. The clubs were set up similarly, where, like, you have to walk through, like, guarded doors after hours. I think they ended up, like, shutting this down. There was a lot of legal stuff that I didn't really understand, but I'm pretty sure the police eventually, like, shut down these types of clubs in their International District. So you can't go into, like, underground after hours, like, little casinos.
Yeah, they're very strict on, just gambling in general, but...
Yeah, so they all eventually shuttered their doors. And then the Wami Club itself is in a state of, like, permanent disrepair. Like, it's been shut down since the 1990s.
I bet, like, so much money was coming into the community from those, like, that's the thing with, like, casinos, is, like, it brings in a lot of money.
Exactly. So there's a lot of, like, buildings in the ID that have never been updated, like, since this time.
Yeah. So I feel like you walk down the International District right now, and there's so many, like, vacant buildings.
A lot of people probably, like, lost their life savings during some of these times in the 80s to 90s during era for the ID.
Did the guys get all that money? Like,
they did. They had collected. That was also a thing I wrote down. They collected in total, like, $200,000.
Jesus.
And then the police found the money respectively, like, separated in their houses, like, when they were caught. Like, they recovered the money. But, you know, that goes right to the police department.
Yeah, like, that people don't...
they want with it.
Yeah, the people don't get that back.
No.
A lot of them are dead, but their family should have gotten the money.
I know, I was going to say, I'm sure the victims' families would have really appreciated that. I do think, you know, there were some settlements that happened, and, like, there was probably some payouts, I would imagine. I'll admit, the legal trial part is where I got a little bit lost in this, because there's so much information around this case.
And legal jargon's confusing too.
Yeah, so I kind of smudged a little bit on the trial. Sorry about that, y'all. There is, like, nothing happening in the Wami Club now for 3 decades. People are going inside, like, you know, there's, like, dirt, graffiti, everything is just kind of, like, taking the toll of the years. Eventually, like, they spray the outside down, and, like, it used to be green, and then they end up painting it. It's kind of like a rusty brown color eventually. On Christmas Eve in 2013, there was a fire burning at the western half of the building, and it ended up, like, consuming the club.
Did anyone die?
Nobody died.
That's good.
Sections of the roof fell in.
Ooh.
And the wall closest to the Maynard alley, like, completely collapsed. So the entire building was at risk of collapse, and the owner decided to eventually demolish it section by section. And then, here's where it is. Yeah, it's been rebuilt into the Louisa Hotel, which is an apartment building with 84 units of like more affordable rental housing.
I wonder if it's haunted.
I mean, field trip?
Field trip. Anyone live in the Louisa apartment?
Yeah, does anyone live in the Louisa Hotel apartment building or have connects? Because we would love to come respectfully ask some questions.
I got my app.
Anyway, if y'all want to read more about the case, the defendants, what happened to them, my sources are historylink.org, the King 5 Seattle YouTube page, also True Crime All the Time, and TX Ivan on YouTube. Nice. So there's some really great videos about this. Yeah, so this happened in the 80s, 83.
Yeah, not that long.
There are still people very much affected by it.
Yeah. And I think, I'm like, the 80s, that was 20 years ago, but that wasn't that.
I do that all the fucking time. I think that the 80s was 20 years ago, right?
We're just permanently stuck in 2001.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, great story.
Yeah. It's really cool that Chin survived.
Oh,
it's not a cool story.
No, but it's cool that Chin.
It's cool that there was a survivor. Because honestly, if it weren't for him surviving, they may not have been caught.
Yeah, because who would have known? Because they did it.
They tried to leave no survivors. And they did shoot him. So he's really lucky to have survived. Yeah, I was like, we can go on a ghost hunt. Honestly, the entire city, if we just walked around, there's so much. So much blood on this ground.
Yeah.
This is stolen land. There's ghosts from hundreds of thousands of years ago. We always talk about ghosts in such a modern sense, which I find so fascinating, that ghosts are usually Victorian or they're of a certain era. They're the Civil War ghosts. It's what about the ghosts of the first people who lived here?
Well, I even want to think about, what about the ghost of the 2000s?
I was gonna say, what about I saw a meme that was the ghosts wearing Jinko jeans.
Yeah.
Who died at a skate park. Where's that kid?
Yeah.
I want a ghost to haunt me and start playing Eminem, early.
Oh my god,
Eminem.
a ghost that just haunts you with Eminem.
Yeah, fucking ICP ghost.
All of a sudden, it's smells like weed. Oh, my ghost is getting high.
I would love that. Yeah, I've got a lot of ghosts in here. The viral video where people blow smoke and they say, "Ooh, it's a ghost."
What? I've never seen that.
They just record smoke in the light, and they say, "Look, there's a ghost in my house." With that,
should you need us,
we'll be here.
I was also, while you were looking it up, I was about to look up on YouTube how to pronounce, and the first thing that comes up is mayonnaise.
What?
I don't know.
How to pronounce mayonnaise? Okay, well.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
Mayonnaise is kind of a weird looking word, so if you haven't ever heard it said before, you might say it.